Hi, how are ya? If you're new here, this is Tenzin. I'm one of the resis in Cairns, Australia. I love making videos on the AMC standard pathway to help give ideas to the other IMGs who are planning to pursue the same pathway in Australia. And it's a very humbling experience for me to see so many comments, messages in both my Instagram as well as my YouTube channel. And I'm really thankful for that. And I hope that I've done my best to answer all of your queries. Here I am with another AMC video related series, and this time I'm going to discuss about how to write a good CV and a good cover letter so that this can help you stand out in the job campaigns. There is a big dilemma among the IMGs whether you should pay someone or a professional CV maker to make your CV look extremely good versus whether you can do things by yourself by your own ideas and by your own research. Now, my personal opinion is this is completely up to your choice. But having said that, if you can get the things done by your own ideas and your own research, like I have done, why should you choose to pay, hey? So, in this video, I'll be telling you the important things that you should keep in mind, rather, I should say, the important tick boxes that you should keep in mind when you write your CV and your cover letter, and this can probably increase the chance of um, getting you as the desired candidate among the other candidates who are applying for the same spot. Now, the disclaimer that I am giving in this video is that I'm not a professional CV maker, and all the ideas and all my views are of my own, and my intention is to help you get the ideas of what things to consider while writing your CV and your cover letter. So, let's get started.
Now, when we are writing a CV, I don't think that you have to buy those expensive CV templates from the websites. The CV can be written on a simple Microsoft Word document, and make sure that you convert that into a PDF document when you are applying to the job campaigns, because sometimes the formatting can be a bit tricky when you upload it in Microsoft Word, and when the other person opens your CV, we have to make sure that the format is as per what we have designed when we are writing a CV. All right. So I should say the key to writing a good CV is keeping it simple, nothing fancy, no borders, no tables, no colorful things, just black and a standard font. I've kept it as Times Roman. Okay, let's go through each and every detail. So this is the first page of a CV template. So obviously, when you write a CV, you should write your name in bold, Dr. XYZ, so that the person who is seeing your CV remembers your name. And it is extremely important that on the first page you keep all the relevant information so that the person will be interested to read what you have written on the second or the third or the fourth page. Now, another important thing is keep your CV within 4 pages. Don't make it beyond 4 pages. It is absolutely unnecessary. All right. So first, you will be writing your name, and after that, your qualification. So, for example, here MBBS medical officer XYZ hospital in India, number of years of clinical experience. That's a very important thing for the medical recruitment team to have a look. So I've written here as 3 years of clinical experience as a medical officer, with always mention that you have recency of practice. Now, this topic is pretty big to discuss with. There's a very good document in the AFRA website. So if you type recency of practice in AFRA website, you can pretty much get to all the information that is required. Now, it basically means that the AFRA wants someone who doesn't have a big clinical year gap and who is continuously working at the time of applying the job, and that work should be a clinical work. All right. So if you have completed AMC clinical, you should write as eligible for AFRA provisional registration. If you have only done AMC part 1, you can write as eligible for AFRA limited registration. All right. Next thing, you have completed AMC Part 1 and Part 2. So if you have cleared AMC Part 2, that's a big game changer for the hospitals to take you in. You should definitely mention that on the first page. All right. Next thing, certified in ALS level 1 and BLS, or you can write it as advanced life support and basic life support. So if you have any emergency medicine skills or an important like skills, for example, number of years in the emergency medicine or some specific courses that you have done in emergency medicine, always mention that on the first page, and your email, and you can also write your phone number here. Next thing should be your academic qualifications. As I've mentioned, keep the AMC clinical part on the first page, and you should go from the most recent and then go backwards. Always mention that you have completed your English test with a date, AMC part 1 and a date. Very important to mention that you have done ECFMG verification, because that is a requirement for AFRA, and your MBBS from this medical college, and where you have done and in which year you have done. All right. Now, next is the registration history. So in your home country, if you have done different registrations or one state registration, you can mention that the most recent to going backwards. If you have done any kind of observership in Australia, which is good and which is a desirable thing but not a necessity thing. I'm saying it's not a necessity because I haven't done any observership and I got the job. All right. So registration history or observership history you can mention here. Honors and awards, make sure that it comes in the first page. You can tell about your any distinction or any gold medal, like anything that you think is relevant in terms of honors that you have achieved. Next thing is work experience. Now, work experience should be your most recent and then going backwards. For example, medical officer at this hospital in India from this date to that date. Whether you are working full time or part time, whether it's a clinic based job or ward job, the number of patients that you see per day, and the type of emergency cases that you can manage under the supervision, and the referrals that you do at your workplace. All right, and after that, details about your internship in like XYZ Medical College date. You have to mention that what work you can do as an intern, and the rotations, just in brief about like which rotations you have completed. The next section should be key competencies and skills. Now, this is also a very important section where you'll be highlighting about your clinical skills. Now, when you're applying for a resident medical officer job or a hospital medical officer job, so most of the job involves basic ward work, and that should reflect on your CV. You should portray as someone who is fit to do as a resi job in Australian healthcare system. Now, the basic resi job here includes general history taking, physical examination, documentation, interpreting investigations, and having a management plan under supervision. It's very important that whatever you do, it should be under supervision. You should have a consultant or registrar, and you should not portray as someone who is only willing to do everything by yourself and not to discuss or delegate tasks within the team. All right. If you have are whether you are competent or whether you have observed basic life support, advanced life support, you can mention it here, and the basic procedural skills. So as I mentioned that the word work of the resis here often involves IV cannulation. It's okay if you haven't done ultrasound guided. If you have done and if you have a certification, always mention that. Even though you don't have a certification, but you know how to do it, you can mention it here. Catheterization, NG tube insertion, basic wound care, suturing. Now, these are the basic resi jobs in the Australian healthcare system. And if you have done computerized record keeping of the patients in your home country, mention that. Now, the next section is the communication skills. Now, in the communication skills, it's very important to mention that you can do ISBAR clinical handover. I would suggest if you don't know about ISBAR clinical handover, there is a very good Geeky Medic video on the YouTube. Now, communication skill does not necessarily mean that you can speak good English. It also means that you can communicate effectively within the multidisciplinary team that you will be working with. All right. And the communication skills also involves a referral to different specialities and follow-up plan. Now, with all of these points, you can mention one or two sentences of like what you have done in regards to these headings. I don't want you to just write the headings like I have written in the template and just like leave it as it is. If you have examples, or if you can highlight a bit about these particular pointers, it'll be great, but make sure that it is not too lengthy for the person to read. All right. um, okay, we were discussing about referral to different specialities and having a follow plan. Now the next thing is your experience of communicating people with from different cultural backgrounds. Now, in Australia, it's a multicultural country with an important emphasis on the indigenous culture, or we say the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander, who are the First Nations of Australia. Now, it'll be very good if you can portray as someone who is culturally sensitive to different cultures and who is keen to learn, or who has the experience of uh, managing patients with different cultural backgrounds. And your fluency of speaking different languages, if you can, and you can do prioritization of patients based on severity. Like if someone is unwell, you have the ability to escalate to your registrar or to the consultant, and that escalation should be done in a timely manner so that you can make a difference in the patient management. All right. The next clinical skill is planning and teamwork, extremely important. Now, you have to mention about working with a multidisciplinary team, how in your home country you have worked with the nurses, with the allied health, with the phlebotomist, with the lab technician, like, or with the community leaders, with the non-governmental organization team members, like anyone, and how you have made a difference in the community, or how you have made a difference in the management of the patient. All right. Like you can mention the teamwork examples, like if you have done any sort of like health camps where you are a part of the team, and you have been able to see, your team has been able to see many patients with all the team members' effort, and how that team effort has created a difference on the patients on those particular days. You can mention about that. Next skill is your teaching and organization qualities. Now, in Australian healthcare system, you will often be asked to teach the medical students who will accompany you in the ward rounds and like in doing other jobs. So you should show as someone who is keen to teach medical students or the nurses or like anyone, and you have to show your enthusiasm in teaching as well, and you can share your examples that what you have done in the past. And the next heading to focus on is the continued medical education activities. Now, here you can mention all the courses from med school to till now, mentioning the recent course first and then going backwards. Now, the extracurricular activities. Now, when you do the job interview, sometimes the whole of job interview might be based on your extracurricular activities that clicks with one of the interviewers. So make sure that you portray as someone who is not just a medical person doing the hospital job, and who's also as someone who can do other things like music, dance, singing, sports, like anything that you can think of, and you can mention few examples. All right. The another important thing to mention at the end is to mention about your references. So ideally, you should mention 3 references, preferably 2 doctors or the senior doctors, and one can be any nurse or any allied health or any non-medical person. Now make sure that whoever you choose as a referee, you are confident that that person can vouch for you and can be a good referee, because reference can be a huge game changer. Like, even if you have done extremely well in your CV and in your interview, but your referee doesn't reflect those qualities in the reference check, now that actually means that you can lose the job. So make sure that you write your references and you're confident that like whatever the referee will write about you is true about yourself and your capabilities. Now you have to mention the doctor's name, the specialty, and the hospital, doctor's email, and the doctor's phone number. Most likely, the hospitals will contact the referees through the email. Now, even if it's not a work email, it is absolutely okay, because I can understand that in our home countries, we don't usually have the habit of keeping a different work email address. So at the end, you have to mention that I would like to declare that the curriculum vitae is true and correct as at that particular date. Now, it's important that if you are applying for a general rotational RMO, you can mention your skills about like different rotations. If you are specifically like writing a CV about an ED resident post, you have to mention specifically about the ED experiences that you have. If you are mentioning about a surgical RMO, like if you're applying for surgical RMO post, you have to mention about your surgical skills. Now you have to make sure that you tailor the CV as per the job, like as per what the job requires. All right, and make sure that after you have done the CV, you check each and every spelling, making sure that there is no spelling error, there's no error in the formatting, there's no fancy things. As you can see, this is my very simple and basic CV that I have used, and this has helped me to get the job offer. And your CV should not be very fancy one, should not be colorful ones, no tables, no borders. I'm repeating those things because some CVs can be looking pretty fancy, which is not required. So yeah, and that's all about the CV. Now let's move to the cover letter. Okay, and the next one is the cover letter, which is another extremely important thing to consider while applying for jobs. Now, both for CV and cover letter, you don't have to write as CV or cover letter on the top. This is generally understood when you upload on the respective sections. All right, in terms of cover letter, you will start with your name on bold letters, like, and making sure that the person remembers your name, your qualification, your hospital and your home country, your email address, and your phone number. uh, and next thing should be the date. And after that, it should be you can address the cover letter to the clinical director. There was once a time where I used to think that who should I address the cover letter to? Just write the clinical director, and that should be all good. Write the name of the hospital, an address, and Australia. Now, the subject is regarding application for the post of resident medical officer job and the job reference number, which is very important to mention. You can start with the line as Dear Doctor, and you should include two paragraphs. The first paragraph should include why do you want the job in that particular hospital. Now, the few examples can be that each hospitals has their own values in the website. You can mention that you can resonate those values with the professional values of your own, or you can say something like the hospital has a very good research projects or research activities, and you are keen to have more learning experiences in the context of your own research experiences that you have done in the past. Or you can write as you are keen to pursue a particular training program that the hospital offers, and yeah, something like that. And the next thing is whether you have AMC part 1, and if you have AMC part 2, you make sure that you must mention that in the cover letter. That is a big thing, and it's a very important thing to mention. The number of years of clinical experience, and make sure that you mention you have recency of practice and you have an English result as well. Now, all of these you can write it as a sentence structure and not like a point wise. These are just the pointers that you can keep in mind that I've mentioned here on the screen. The second paragraph should include your skills or the what jobs that you can do, most of which is already been discussed in the CV, your communication skills, your multidisciplinary teamwork. Now, in the cover letter, you don't necessarily have to mention about the examples in the past. You just have to, the purpose of the cover letter is to ensure that you invite the person to look at your CV. All right. Okay, and I always end the cover letter with this very important and amazing line which says, I have highlighted my competencies and skills in my curriculum vitae, and I would be happy to discuss any aspects of it with you at your convenience. So, this actually means that you are asking for an interview, all right? And you can mention as thank you for your time in considering my application, yours sincerely, and your sign. Now, if you have mentioned your name already on the top, you don't have to do that again at the end. Now, sign, you can either take a picture of your sign and paste it here, or if you use iPad, you can like just write your signature here. Now, the cover letter should not be more than one page. Just to reiterate, the CV should not be more than 4 pages. The cover letter should not include your reference details, and it should be pretty straightforward. And yeah, at the end, I would like to mention that don't keep anything fancy, keep it simple, keep it relevant, keep it as per the tick boxes that you need, as in the Australian healthcare system. After you upload your CV and the cover letter, so there'll be always an email address of the medical recruitment team or a phone number in the website. Make sure that you email them or you call them to say, hey, I am interested to apply for that particular post, and I have applied it online on the website. Now, you don't necessarily have to send the cover letter and your CV again in the email unless you are asked. So most of the time, you won't be asked, because if it's uploaded, then it's all good. Now, if you just give them a heads up and say that you have uploaded your CV and cover letter, and you have the qualifications, you have the English test, you have the recency of practice. Now, it just gives a heads up, or it just gives a bit of how should I say, bit of an element for you to stand out, and they remember your name And trust me that this is a very important and a big step. So, all right, I think the video is gonna be a bit long. I hope you have enjoyed it. So I'm keeping it as it is, and making sure that if at any point you feel like you have to write your CV and your cover letter, make sure you grab all the free ideas that I have mentioned before you plan to get the professional help or before you pay someone a huge amount. All right. It's always good to grab free like resources on the YouTube. And I believe that I can provide those ones as well, hopefully. And I'm planning to make a few more videos, especially on how to stand out in the interview and make sure that you get a right spot in the coming videos. Yeah, we'll conclude this video here. And if you have queries, you can write a comment down below, or you can pop in my Instagram. I'll put the link below. All right. I hope the video has been helpful to you. And yeah, have a good one. See ya.